Yeah, with those of you guys who are creative like yourselves, you still have the energy and the zeal to make music, but the business side, we're hearing a lot about how Spotify execs are taking all the money and the artists are pretty much, just pretty much enjoying just how many plays they get, but not earning from that. So
You know, it's always been like that when you really think about it. Not much has changed because um, in the Motown era, the artists weren't getting paid. The label was taking all the money. In As Yet's era, the 90s, I mean, how many lawsuits do we have to see of artists complaining about how, they're not making enough money from royalties alone to eat? I will say that with the streaming era, it's even more ridiculous because at least when As Yet's record came out, people physically went and bought copies and you got paid per unit. And we thought we were getting, a bad deal, even though, in hindsight, we got a better deal than a lot of the other artists. But if we make a name for ourselves,
yeah.
then people will take us seriously. Then, more of our ideas will get heard. And I think for someone like Sabrina Carpenter, if she has any aspirations of being a writer or a creative, great. But there are plenty of artists who just do what they're told and figure it out later and say, you know what, I can make my money elsewhere. I can open up, a boutique, or I can do a product line of some sort, of fashion, whatever. And I mean, obviously, those are the exceptions to the rule. And history has shown that most folks leave with a bad taste in their house, a bad taste in their house, in their
In the
mouth,
mouse, yeah.
and in need of a mental health therapist like yourself. So,
Hi, everyone. Want to welcome you to another edition of Halftime Chat. And today we've got a special guest. As I say, all my guests are special, but I'm really pleased to welcome back a dear friend, Sean Rivera, formerly of the group As Yet, probably the one of the co-founders of the group. And but since then, Sean has done multiple projects, both solo stuff with Maya Angelou, and he was also in a group called Norris. And so this time we're going to chat and see how he is, what he's been up to, and hope you enjoy this interview. Hey, Sean, how you been?
excellent, man. How's it been with you?
Yes, yes, it's been going well. It's been going well. Um, I think the last time I thought you were back in the East Coast, I didn't realize you'd moved south. How's it
Yes, when
over
we
there?
last left my hero, I had just gotten married. I moved from Philadelphia to a tiny town called Killeen, Texas. It's a military base currently known as Fort Cavazos, but those of us who know it used to be called Fort Hood.
Yeah, yeah, Fort
It's
Hood. I've heard Fort
peaceful,
Hood.
it's quiet. You've got a mixture of all different kinds of people. It's a change of pace from all that goes on in Philadelphia. Although I'm planning to come back to Philly and visit like yesterday because missed the fan.
Yeah, yeah. My
Yeah.
goodness. I mean, I guess weather-wise, it's probably a little bit better than the East Coast.
Well, it is, but it's up and down. So like, some days it'll like right now in Fahrenheit, it's 60. So it's like the end, it feels like the end of spring, even though we're in the middle
Yeah.
of winter. But then in 2 days it'll be freezing, where you
Wow.
gotta like run your water so the pipes don't freeze type of things. So
Oh, goodness, goodness,
it's
goodness.
nice. Really peaceful.
But how's it like when you move into a place outside of your comfort zone when it comes to being creative? Then how does that
Well,
affect?
you know what? When you have an open expanse where you don't constantly have to look over your shoulder and be hyper vigilant. Um, I've actually gotten a lot done here. I'm working on a project that was brought to me by a friend of mine named Alex Alessandroni, who he was Natalie Cole's music director, Pink's music director, Christina Aguilera's music director. We've known each other. We met when he was working on the Babyface tour, and he brought me a friend of his who's working on a musical animation called A Colorful Tale. And without giving too much of it away, think like Inside Out meets Toy Story kind of thing.
Wow.
But it's got a great message. And I've been doing like he'll send me a poem and I'll write the music to it and format and or add, change, remove lyrics to make it musical. and we've been working on that. I just signed with a new management company called Midtown. Shout out to Midtown. Um, they're connected to everybody from the Jacksons to the Village People to UTFO. Um, and we're working on some synergy projects coming out this summer. It's really banging stuff.
What's Synergy Project? What does that mean?
Meaning that all the artists that are with Midtown
Yeah.
have individual projects in which we'll be featuring each other on. You
Okay.
know, it's pretty cool. It reminds me of back in the day when like, you'd have like Luther and Stevie on a record or, you know,
I think
uh
Uptown did a lot of that with Mary and
yeah,
Fat
yeah.
MC
So
and
so it's
Jodeci
it's
and
really cool. It's kind of, yeah, you know what? It is Midtown, so it's kind of in the vein of Uptown.
yeah.
And shout out to Michael DeBarge who heads it up. And
He's not related to the L.
he is, but I'll let him tell that story. You might want to have him on the show because when I tell you he's got stories, man. Really quick, what I met him at a conference in Philadelphia, and we were both speaking on two different panels. I was on an artist legacy panel, and he was on a music business panel, and we both watched each other's panel, and we met up in the area where like you take pictures, and we both had like the same jacket on, and I said, "Hold on," like we look like we could be related, and we've been friends ever since. This was a couple of years back, and turns out that he at one point represented Corey Feldman.
Oh yeah,
Now,
yeah, from the Goonies and stuff. Yeah.
now from the outside looking in, a lot of people were like, "Oh, this guy thinks he's Michael Jackson." If you've ever seen him perform, it's a spectacle. It's kind of like people cringe and they make fun,
Yeah.
but Michael DeBarge was the genius who figured out how to monetize that situation, and he put him on tour called the Loserville tour with Limp Bizkit. And every time you post a comment or make fun of Corey Feldman, best believe Corey Feldman is getting paid. So I said, you know what? If he can make that situation work, surely, surely he can find a way to make it work for me.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And so would you be singing or are you just going to be doing more of the production writing?
Actually, I've recorded a few songs. I don't want, like I said, I don't want to give everything away,
Yeah,
but
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm working with Doc Ice, from UTFO. Um,
Okay.
Doc Ice was the brainiac behind the situation, along with Kango Kid, and and a lot
Mm,
of the stuff that Full Force did with UTFO. So we're planning some type of a situation and a tour to bring back some of those songs. And I know Kango's not with us anymore. Rest in
yeah.
peace. Um, but we're gonna put together a lot of the remaining members from that era. Um, and I've actually recorded a few songs for that project already. It's
Wow.
really awesome. But also, one more thing I have to shout out: KRU. They're based out of Malaysia. Those of you who are As Yet fans may remember a song we did with Jacqueline Victor called "Magical Moment." I'm working with them on a project for a virtual twin.
What's
People
the
talk
virtual
about
twin?
AI. People talk about how AI is like some sort of like it's going to mark the end of music as we know it. I mean, it's the same thing they said about synthesizers. It's the same thing they said about beat machines and everything else. And to a degree, I do agree that in the hands of the wrong people, AI will wind up replacing the disposable music. However, KRU came to me with this great idea. They said, you know what? There are a lot of artists who can't be in two places at once or can't perform anymore for whatever reason, whether they be deceased or incapacitated or just don't feel like it. We're going to create virtual twins of these artists using AI, but with their input and authorization, and we'll split the money the same way as if they were physically there. Now, that's the business template that I want to see moving forward,
Wow.
and I'll win. So, I got a lot of irons in the fire.
It almost feels like you're just at home watching TV and then you send your double ganger out to go sing for you and it makes the
I
money.
mean, in a way, it's like working from home on steroids. I mean, and in a town like this, like bringing it back, I'm in a tiny place where the music industry, I mean, it's strong but non-existent at the same time. Meaning, there's a handful of people who have a handful of small places, tiny venues,
Mm.
and it's a grind. So I've been producing and working with people who don't live here, and that's been my primary hunting grounds has always been you know wherever the music leads me. So I've got projects going on the East Coast, in California, and in Malaysia at this point. you know.
Goodness. I mean, I guess when people don't see you or and stuff, they just assume that you're sitting at home reading a newspaper. But
I'm at home balled up in a corner, like, please hire me. Somebody, please. I can still sing. I make music too.
Yeah, but the thing is that with those of you guys who are creative like yourselves, you still have the energy and the zeal to make music. But the business side, we're hearing a lot about how Spotify execs are taking all the money, and the artists are pretty much, just pretty much enjoying just how many plays they get, but not earning from that. So
It's always been like that when you really think about it. Not much has changed because um, in the Motown era, the artists weren't getting paid. The label was taking all the money. In As Yet's era, the 90s, I mean, how many lawsuits do we have to see of artists complaining about how, they're not making enough money from royalties alone to eat? I will say that with the streaming era, it's even more ridiculous because at least when As Yet's record came out, people physically went and bought copies and you got paid per unit. And we thought we were getting, a bad deal, even though, in hindsight, we got a better deal than a lot of the other artists
mm,
to get 15 cents on the dollar. Now you're getting 0.0001 cent on the dollar. So it's even worse. And I make no excuses for the industry. I'm just saying that it's the same game, different players, and it seems to be trending in a downward spiral. But on the flip side, there are all these other opportunities that artists, for instance, you usually couldn't get brand deals, licensing deals, or sponsorships until after your record succeeded. But nowadays, if you're capable of getting a following um, through your social media, I've seen people who I've never heard of who've happened, get hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, and they're doing beauty lines and products. Stuff that
yeah,
used to
yeah.
be end game stuff is now like the beginning. So I think that's
Okay.
pretty cool. I mean, there are ways.
I mean, I think you ever talked about the dangers of AI. I just 2 days ago I got sent by a friend Stevie a track by R. Kelly,
Mm.
which an AI used his vocals and wrote a song in his style.
Mhm.
Um, and then they did a sort of an AI video of him in prison, singing this song, and I'm trying to, and I'm because let me try and remember the name of the song because it just got sent to me, and I think one of the things about this was the fact that it's called a second chance. Yeah. So if you search YouTube for your second chance, so it is an AI compilation of R. Kelly. So they probably got 60% of his vocals,
Well,
but
you
you
know
got
what?
about
I'm
yeah.
I'm actually all for that in the sense that if they could use the money generated from that for child abuse victims or rape victims, that would be a really cool way. And I mean, I'm kind of a moralist when it comes to these things, meaning like I heard a song that they did in AI. I'm sure a lot of people have heard the one with Justin Bieber, where he said, "I
Mm.
lost myself at a Diddy party." It was like my
The real
favorite song
song.
here
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a song that, if the allegations are true, I thought, man, if he had the courage to put out a song like this, it would really like resurrect his career in a whole nother way. I look at AI as a way for folks like myself who have great ideas, but maybe not a lot of time. I don't even have time to mount my phone right now. Like we were just joking about it before the break, where I'm like, I'm in the middle of like 10 different things and I'm holding my phone. So like if I could go to my computer and go to, AI and say, hey, look, I've got this idea for a song. And it's a combination of like if The Weeknd did a country song, or if I don't know, if Jay-Z did a song in Spanish, what would it sound like? You know what I mean? Like then I can kind of use what the tools give me and build on that. But to pass off artificial music as the real thing, I think
Yeah.
obviously is disingenuous and fraudulent. But I think there's a space for it. I'd rather listen to AI R. Kelly than the real R. Kelly at this point because then I don't have any guilt.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I use him as an example because that's what got sent to me a couple of days ago. But they could do the same they've done it with Biggie, a track with Biggie and Tupac on it, and
Yeah.
the thing is that yeah, maybe the people who are creating it, a lawsuits are going to come up about copyright ownership, whose voice is it? It's Biggie and Tupac didn't actually write the lyrics, so technically it isn't copyright infringement. But then have they copywritten their vocals or their
You know,
style?
I'm no lawyer, but I will say this. From what I do know, if you parodize a song, it's totally legal. But if you use an artist's image, name, or likeness in a way that is deleterious to their career, they have every right to shut you down. Now, I think it'll be interesting to see who actually does file those cases because they do the math before they file the case to see how much money was generated and see if it's the juice is worth the squeeze. So
Mm.
in the discovery, there's going to be a lot of interesting information about how much. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if there are cases where the AI version makes more than the real artist.
And then probably what happens is they wait until it's generated a lot of money, and then it's like, okay, we're coming after you for the
Yeah,
money at the time. I know Carl Martin from founder of Shy when I interviewed him, and he's
yeah,
out in Texas as well. He
okay,
did say that he embraces AI in creating music the same way you sort of described, where it's more of a, okay, here's an idea I have. Can you give me some things? And then as you mentioned, and it's different when you hear an artist and creators talking about AI in that way, as opposed to a person like me who could just say, "Can you give me a Sam Cooke song featuring Heavy D?" And I want it to sound as if, Alicia Keys and Jay-Z's New York, New York, and all of a sudden
yeah.
it's creating something like that. Just as different when you have an idea, you put some lyrics and you want it to add to that.
Yeah, I look at it as like a starting point, not the end game. For instance, people said the same thing about autotune. They're like, oh man, now singers don't even have to sing. But then you've got artists like T-Pain who used it as a tool, not a crutch, and it created this whole subgenre. Well, I won't say created because obviously he's in the lineage of folks like Roger Troutman,
Yeah.
but I mean, the man obviously can sing with or without it. It wasn't about trying to fool people or trick people or be lazy. He used it in a way that was creative, and it's just like any other instrument. And when you look at it, right, it's not like there's nobody plays bass or guitar or sings anymore. If anything, it raises the bar because people are getting used to such a level of perfection. Their ears are being trained to hear every last note on key.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting into this whole retro thing where like I'm going out of my way to let people know when it's not auto tune, like kind of leave the blue notes like Babyface used to do. He would know how to leave certain notes that were like legally off, but felt so good you couldn't take your ears off it because the struggle of almost reaching the note was better than just sitting on top of it blandly. It's a lost art.
Yeah, my issue with the autotune is that actually it did take away the art of actually hearing good singers really sing, and it just made average singers just be able to be studio record
Well, you're
singers.
gonna love this one. I don't think it's the artist's fault because the ones who can't sing don't know they can't sing. Right? So what it did was it gave the labels more people to take advantage of, but that's a whole nother story. It made it easier for them to find willing participants in their shenanigans to go along with it. But I don't think artists like myself who are always striving to be better, who want to actually do the work, it didn't make me go, you know what? Phew, I don't have to sing anymore. But I use it sometimes to get like in the backgrounds or to like to give a modern feel to a song. And if you don't like autotune, you're never gonna like it. I agree though that it lowered the bar for the labels to find marketable artists. And therefore the listening public, when they go and, all they have to choose from unless they dig is what's being shown to them. So, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Think about that, all of a sudden somebody called Sabrina Carpenter has burst out, and it's like, you hear Cat Williams talk about industry plant, and you're thinking,
Hmm.
how does she just 1 minute just become as big as Taylor Swift kind of play and airtime just overnight? And it's like that just
Well, I might get canceled for this, but first of all, those of us in the industry have heard her name for at least the past 7 years. That's
Seven
number one.
years.
Yes. When she was little. See, what happens is a lot of these artists are connected and they're raising budgets and trying to get people to groom them to be the thing. Then I'm not saying that she's been on the grind and she had bangers for 7 years, but what I'm saying is that her name is not new to me. But what I will say is this, um, and again, this is just my humble opinion. I think that once Taylor Swift drew her line in the sand politically, they were looking for the next one, and she, because her name was familiar within the industry, they propped her up. So again, you're not wrong.
Also, when went and re-recorded his stuff and says, "I'm going to take
That was
control."
the beginning of it. But then when she endorsed Kamala Harris and cut her
Uh,
fan base with the new administration coming in, the labels are looking at who's investing in BlackRock. They don't care about what the fans want. They actually they're looking at their bottom line. They're thinking, well, not as many fans are going to be buying her now because she's somewhat controversial. She picked the wrong side. We got 4 years where you know, if we piss off the administration, then all of a sudden there's going to be new taxes, regulations, and laws. They're actually going to start restricting AI. They're going to start looking into our books. We don't want that. So let's just do what they want. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I see where Cat's coming from.
the thing is that
I mean, you're not in America right now, so thank your thank your lucky
yeah,
stars.
but you have people like Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos switching allegiance and saying, "Yeah, whatever you want, Trump. We're going to be like Elon Musk because he seems to, whatever he's been doing, we're going to do."
Yeah, it's
And
capitulation. Yes, absolutely. And I will say this, right? That would be true no matter who won. For instance, let's say Kamala won. Then a lot of companies would be rebranding, trying to make themselves the same way that like once a year there'll be like a Pride sale, and then meanwhile that same company will donate money to fight against gay rights. I mean, just as an example,
yeah, yeah.
it's not specific to one party. It's not specific to one company. They all seem to capitulate to whoever is in power so that they can keep their bottom line. I mean,
But
it
but
sucks,
but
but
but for someone like Sabrina Carpenter, so she was releasing music and not really
yeah, I mean,
making
you should
much.
Google it. Like, it blew my mind. I'm like, wait a minute. The thing was, right? When they said best new artist, I was like, new artist? Like, just because she hasn't been mainstream, she's had releases out before. Now, you know what they do? They scrub the internet, they take stuff down, because best new artist Grammy does not mean new to the public. It means first song submitted to our organization to be considered for a Grammy. It doesn't mean first release.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of deep. Um, and there's a lot that more, obviously they're looking to see how you're going to capitulate. Are you going to jump through the hoops? Are you going to be a problem? You know?
Wow, I didn't realize it was like I just knew that actually how did everyone everywhere you go the algorithm is pushing her whether you like it or not, whether it's on Instagram, she's all over the UK, and I just said, wow, that's quick. How did you just pop up like that? It
And also
doesn't.
look into her producer, right? She's working with Jack Antonoff, same one who did Taylor Swift.
That's why okay,
So
okay,
I mean, that kind of lets you know that they are setting her up to be that. And that's not a crime. It's not a crime, you know.
wow.
So
But
I actually
then
study the music for the production value because I'm like, oh, so this is what you do when you have unlimited resources,
yeah,
or at least as much as you could possibly need, anyway.
but then what's the payback? What does so she gets instant fame and stuff, but
Hmm.
what did they get in return, the labels?
What don't they get? I mean, when you think about it, right? If if you as an artist is getting 0.0001, who's getting the other 9,999,999?
Okay.
But of course, the producers get a cut, and I mean, obviously, I'm preaching to the choir because when I met you, you were working for the label, so you could probably tell me a thing or two. But for the listeners out there, um, some folks, arguably, for the right reasons, think it's a fair trade. like when the As Yet signed our deal, um, we knew going in, all right, we have no creative control. That was important for me to
Mm,
have creative control, but I thought, if we make a name for ourselves,
yeah.
then people will take us seriously, then, more of our ideas will get heard. And I think for someone like Sabrina Carpenter, if she has any aspirations of being a writer or a creative, great. But there are plenty of artists who just do what they're told and figure it out later and say, you know what, I can make my money elsewhere. I can open up, a boutique, or I can do a product line of some sort of fashion, whatever. And I mean, obviously, those are the exceptions to the rule. And history has shown that most folks leave with a bad taste in their house, a bad taste in their house, in their
And the
mouth,
mouse, yeah.
and in need of a mental health therapist like yourself. So,
But then for you, I think, are you at a stage where creative control is important and the big banks of the labels are no longer appealing?
well, you know what? This is interesting. I'm glad you asked that question. Because, first of all, I went through a stage. In the beginning, all I wanted was to be able to get whatever visions were going on in my head and my heart, get them out there.
Mm.
Then it was okay. Um, when Ajay got signed, and we realized, wait a minute, getting signed is not the end; it's just the beginning. And you're competing with other artists on the label. Then we're going to show them we can do whatever they ask and better, like to outdo whatever's going on. Because if you can, people don't believe you can swim um, until you show them you can swim. You can be a fisherman all you want, right? So then I thought, all right, I'm going to do everything myself. Then I went through a phase where it's like, you know what? Um, the producers and artists I respect are as much respected for who they work with. Then I wanted to collaborate with everybody. Now I'm at a phase where I'm in service to the music. And sometimes a song doesn't need to be overproduced or oversung. It just needs to be heard a certain way. So I put myself in the place of the listener. And if let's say I'm writing a song for a kids movie, I'm not going to sing it the same way I would if I'm writing a song for a fan of neo soul and acid jazz, versus like a pop song versus an R&B song versus a gospel song. Like
Mm.
I'm in service to the music. So if it means I got to be raw, if it means it's got to sound awkward, if it means I have to change my diction or pronunciation, me is a work in progress these days. I'm just in service to the music.
Yeah. Yeah, but as I said, it's the shame that the music which had so much value a long time ago doesn't seem to carry the same value. If you're going out and spending $10 to $20 on a new album, you can see that we're valuing that, we're paying for that. It's the access to music is just so widespread that you can get a whole, there's no album you can get if and download if even forget Spotify, you can just illegal download sites, you can just download the whole album
Or
and
just don't
it's
download it all. Just get it free off YouTube. But on the flip
yeah,
side, right?
yeah, yeah,
On the
yeah.
flip side, because I remember when my royalty checks were a lot fatter too, and now it's just kind of like, yeah, when they come, they come. But on the flip side, scarcity creates demand. So those artists like myself who are from the last of that era and before, say 70s, 80s, 90s, the money is in the live performances because the live performances are so hard to come by. And folks our age have kids and families. They may only go to one concert a year for like an
Yeah.
anniversary or Valentine's. So you know if what I've noticed is a lot of the legacy artists, they're gathering together to do these old school tours during the summer, you
Yeah.
know, which when we were out, they used to put 50 of us on tour together. Now it's like four artists on tour together. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Okay.
you can get more bang, you can get more buck for your bang, even though back then you got more bang for your buck. So I
Oh, so
advise,
back in the day, it used to be you do one or two songs and they move on. It was a big tour.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that, like, I saw Howard Hewitt come here. And Howard Hewitt, like he hasn't been a mainstream artist in decades. He had a new song, which is awesome, by the way. And the thing is, they packed the place out because there are people like, oh my God, I remember him. Like, what happened to him? He hasn't been. Brian McKnight came here, and this is a tiny town. Brian McKnight came here. All for One's coming here next week.
Oh.
Um, what does he call it? It's just, it's one of those things where the the memories, those core
Yeah,
memories that were created are precious. So if you're an artist who still has it, mostly together, I mean,
vocally, yeah.
there's no reason why you can't go out there and get that bag, you know?
Mary J. Blige is doing going starting a world tour, um, and she's coming to the UK in the
Okay.
summer. She released a new album called I think Gratitude,
Mhm.
and I just got it yesterday, and I must say I was really surprised. It if I was to compare this album with any of her previous albums, I would say think of Share My World.
Ooh,
And
okay.
that's the kind of that's what she just came out with, that type of
Hmm.
album. And
Okay.
the well produced, and it's really in that vein of Share My World. I mean, it doesn't have I Can Love You type of hit, but it's in that sort of vein. So I would say that after Share My World, this would probably be it will probably be one of my top three Mary albums. Just that's and I was just
Well,
saying
that's a
that
strong statement. And, it sounds like a very strategic move ahead of a tour to infuse some of that nostalgia because that's the hardest part when you're an older artist who's already known for a certain sound.
yeah.
And, I'm all about taking chances and like, encouraging people to continue to like, you don't have to keep up with the trends if that ain't you. But like, certain artists like Maxwell or Sade, they'll wait forever. But when they put out a new album, it sounds like they never left. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's good that Mary did that,
But she had feature rappers, Fabulous, Jadakiss,
Okay.
and Fat Joe, and so it was that even the artists that performed, they were old school. So it wasn't, it just felt like, yeah, I'm just taking it back through. I guess what I'm getting at is that, back 20 years ago when Mary was coming out with an album, it was an event.
Yeah.
So everyone would know she's coming out with a new
Now
album.
I
We'll
just
see the
found out
video.
on halftime chat. I'm like, dang, where have I been under a rock, man?
And I think that's what I was trying to get at is that actually, so Mary's going on this massive tour. She's promoting the fact she's going on a tour. She's dropped an album, but how many people know the album's out? And
Well,
how
you know
many
what?
people know
Her
the thing?
defense, though, in her defense, we're from the 6 week cycle era where, like, you had 6 weeks in a cycle to promote a record and that was it. But nowadays, if you could drop the record now, nobody could hear it. But if that tour does well because of her old stuff, people are going to be like, oh, what was that song that she did at the concert? And then go
Okay.
stream it. So it
Okay.
might be a slow burn for her. And, it'd be one of them things that could still be record of the year 2025 because she put it out early enough for the numbers to move up in the summer, as opposed to someone like Beyonce, who's like, man, if she don't do first week numbers, people are going to think she fell off. She's in Mary J's in a special category. I'm not going to write her off sales wise just yet because I would rather them put that money into promoting the tour because that's where she's going to make her money than promoting an album, which she probably won't make as much money. I don't know who she's producing with, but I'm pretty sure Stevie J might not be on this record. I don't know. He might have fallen out of favor these days. But yeah, there's
No,
probably a lot of politics with that too, So we'll
yeah,
see. I gotta
I
investigate.
I will admit though, there were parts of me when I listened to the record did think, Diddy would have featured if he had featured in one or two of the tracks, it would have actually felt it would have felt because he just felt like he was missing from it.
Yeah, and people love a spectacle. They'll listen to it just to see, just so they can say, "Yeah, I heard that the last thing he recorded before he got locked up."
Yeah, I mean, but I guess this is where we're talking about how um, the industry just come full circle. 'Cause a lot of people seem to be opening their eyes and stuff. But for yourself, then, when you see your old group, because I thought they were reforming, with Kenny Terry sort of taking the lead.
Have you been watching? I've been keeping up. I'm glad you brought this up because one of my favorite things about being on halftime chat is you've always given me the opportunity to correct the record, first of all. And I was scrolling through some of your comments, well, some of the comments on your page about how the name As Yet came about. Now, I was there when it happened. When we came up with the name, a little backstory, 2 seconds, was that our original name was actually Dimension and Sound with Ali Hyman. That group had me, Claude, Dion, and the late Damon Core from No Question. There were four of us before we got Kenny Terry. Now, when we left Ali Hyman, he's continued on with Dimension and Sound. Kenny, me, Damon Core, Claude, that's Sean. That's five, right? We were trying to come up with a new name, and we were also talking about songs to put on our album. Like we were going to produce our own record to go around. Back in the day, you had to go around and find people to invest in you to make a record. So me and Damon were and Claude. Me, Damon, and Claude were songwriters. So we had like books and papers worth of songs. And Damon had pulled out this pad and he says, "Yeah, I've got like 10 songs here and about another 10 that are as yet untitled." And I was like, "That's it." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "That's the name of the group." He's like, "What, songs?" I'm like, "No, no, as yet untitled." Because, we kept saying we didn't want a name that limited us to one style. Like we wanted to
Mm.
evolve as artists. So like as yet untitled meant that we were always becoming something. Like in a weird kind of way, we were inspired by groups like En Vogue, who was, even though they were a female group, every time they did a song in a different genre, they became that vibe. Now, when we got with LaFace, Babyface suggested we shorten the name. He thought it was too complicated, for people. And my response was, well, what about like Arrested Development? He said, well, look, why not just As Yet? And then they, suggest putting a Z in it because we're from Philly and trying to compete with Boyz II Men, and the rest is history. But I heard a different version in the comments and a different version in their interview about how the name came about. And I didn't want to do that to Damon Core. Forget, you can take my name out all you want. It wouldn't be the first time that they've written me out of history. But when it comes to, the late, great Damon Core, he, you know, he didn't deserve that. I mean, it was just a fluke thing that we came up with in passing, from a conversation.
And always used to think it was media training to have a succinct story that, in a
I obviously
way,
failed. Sorry.
no, 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 no,
I
no, no,
just
no.
didn't
I
really
always,
have
no, no, no,
knowledge.
no. I think it was stuff that I always used to think that those who, if you were originally part of the group, your story works out because yes, you were there. If you're coming in and you weren't part of the creation, you then need to have a story that in a way ties you into, yes, this is how it came about. And I
Well, the story that they told, they
yeah.
said that we named ourselves after a Terrence Trent D'Arby song called "As Yet Untitled." But
Does he
back
have a
then,
song
the
called
only
As
song
Yet?
we knew was they yes, he does have this weird little a cappella interlude, but we didn't know about that because all he had out back then was "Sign Your Name Across My Heart." He didn't even
Yeah,
put
yeah,
that out
yeah,
yet.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm like, why would you? I mean, like you said, sometimes you have to make the story shorter, but there was not a factual slice of information in it. I'm like, okay, I love you guys, but okay.
Yeah. Oh goodness. Have you reached have you and Kenny chatted or
No, you know what? The last time I spoke to them, I was in Vegas, and you know, I actually heard some of the music that they did, and it was really good. Like they've got all these unreleased songs that are fantastic. They were produced by one of the members, Drayton, um, who I used to work with. He used to go by Pit Boss. He's a producer, keyboard player, vocalist extraordinaire. And I used to work with him in Vegas back in the day. So I thought it was a good fit that they brought him in and they brought in Jay Naughty because they used to work together. So I went out last year, no, 2 years ago was the last time I spoke to them. And I said something to the effect of, I said to Kenny, I said, "You're Otis now. They're coming to see you," because he's the last remaining member, like Otis is in the
yeah, yeah,
Temptations.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I just thought it was kind of ironic that Tony Grant, who used to be in our group, is now in the Temptations. And now, yeah.
Okay.
So that was it. And I've seen they did a song with D Train. I don't know if you heard it, but
Uh,
it's actually pretty cool. It's on D Train's album, not on
okay.
As Yet's album, as far as I know. But they did a remake of that song. For Your Love is like I get up on a cloud with this cool synth line. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
dope song. Like it was a classic back in the day. So I heard that, and then they did this song that was a Lance Starr remake. I'm not quite sure if they just took the track off the internet or what, but I think it was just like a teaser, but it did really well. I'm always pulling for them, like we have our things and our disagreements and whatnot, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm always posting and checking their comments, and I want them to put that record out because it sounded like the logical progression for if As Yet had never left but had kept up with what's been
Mm.
going on. but so far the singles that I've seen them put out are not as reflective of what I
Okay.
heard on that record. So I hope they keep it
Wow.
together.
Well, speaking of a former group, what about Nazareth?
Um, Nazareth was always a one-off, and
Okay.
I'll just say that, we did what we did, and it's really cool for what it was. But I decided, well, we both decided that to move on from that. I mean, if anybody wants to know, they can DM me about it more
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
But
But was it a
it's
lot
no.
of work though too? Because if I could, I mean, seeing you guys, it felt like wow, it almost felt like wow, being an independent artist seems like a lot of work because you guys were on doing a lot of stuff with local
Well, here's
news
how
and
what the way that it came about was actually kind of interesting because like Norm had reached out to me through the internet, and I didn't know who he was, but I saw some videos he did and the production value looked really high. And originally when we met, he had offered to take me to some podcasts to meet some friends from Stetson Sonic and High Five, like some folks that I met or knew of, but like, he was connected with them. And, we did a lot of cool like radio appearances. And I thought, oh, that's really cool that, he just put me on. And he had played me a song in the car. And I thought, oh, this is actually, pretty dope. Like it's cool in like a quirky kind of way. And I
hmm,
said, let's just do a one off because you're an artist and I'm an artist. Let's just try it. And for whatever reason, it was like the good kind of corny or the good kind of quirky, or people liked it. And
yeah,
it was cool for what it was. But, there are some circumstances within that situation that I'd rather not speak on.
yeah, yeah. No, 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 no.
It's
I think
just
for
it's
me,
kind of awkward or whatever.
yeah,
But
no,
like,
I
I
think for
wish
me,
him the best. No bad blood. But
yeah,
I'm
no,
trying
for
to
me,
stay out of court right now.
yeah, yeah, no. So for me, it was, I guess that was almost like getting an eyewitness account as to how the work involved in being an independent artist or group because I saw you guys, I saw the hustle, and I was like, wow, that seems like a lot. And I can just then imagine, and especially since yourself being a veteran of the industry, even with that, the kind of work and grind and stuff. But I guess it wasn't a different experience for you that you could always take lessons from, I guess.
Absolutely, but sometimes it's not the music that gets in the way. There's personal issues and other things
Yeah,
that
yeah. But
like I
I'm just
said,
talking
I'm
about
not
more
trying to
so
defame
if you
anybody's
were trying to
character
start
or
up a
get
group.
into a whole
No, I
thing.
was just
So
saying like, yeah, if you were trying to set up a group today, you'd know, wow, sort of things you might do, in getting the music out, more so
yeah,
from
and
that
that
point.
was the thing. I definitely learned a lot from it. And
Yeah.
uh there were we are talking about earlier about how much creative control and all of those sorts of things. It was one of the few times that, I mean, musically we sort of did what we wanted because that project was a third party. It wasn't Norm trying to prove that he could sing or Sean trying to prove that he could produce or whatever. It was this one song. Let's have some fun with it and go
Mm.
all the way, no matter how silly it makes us look.
Yeah.
And that was fun. That was
Yeah.
fun. And to see the response from people, it was a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
It was definitely fun. So what about you were with the a cappella group,
You know what? I'm actually flying back to Philly to work with them. Viva Mas.
Viva
You know,
Mas.
we're brothers for life. Same hometown. Same bloodline. Blah blah. Blah. I tell you, I found out one of them was my actual blood cousin. It's, but we got along before that. But make a long story short, without giving too much away,
Okay.
we got an opportunity to do a feature and some things that are coming up for the summer. So just yesterday we were talking about getting flights booked because one guy lives in Florida and I'm out here. We're going to get together and we've got at least 2 or 3 songs already lined up, plus a library of stuff that we've done up until now. The difficulty of being in groups is coordinating all of the people, all the moving parts. So if the kind of stuff we do is not easy, when I say you got acapella or you got
Yeah,
five
yeah.
part, and not all acapella, but still 5 vocals, 5-part harmony, multi-tracking, mixing, mastering, the whole shot. Third-party producers in house. So just to get a song done might take a month. So
Mm.
I mean, we put a good 4 or 5 years in, and they put in another decade ahead of me because we were label mates back in the day,
Okay.
separate groups. So just getting everyone together to agree on and move takes time. But these guys are my brothers, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what we're up to next because it's pretty awesome.
Wow.
We're picking up where we left off and then some.
What about because did some stuff with Maya Angelou back in the day, some poetry stuff. I mean, have you left that type of
Oh no,
creative
you
stuff?
know what? Okay, so Maya Angelou's album, Cage Bird Songs, just hit its 10th year anniversary in
Wow.
2024. And we've been approached by some people to do like a 10th anniversary remix record. But obviously now um, it's past the 10th anniversary. But when it was music has changed so much, since 2014 that it definitely deserves a revisit. And also, the politics are different now. So things that we might not have been able to do before creatively, um, when you remix something that's already been approved, it's a lot easier than getting approval for something in the beginning.
Mm.
But at the same time, we want to, I say we, meaning, I created the project, but it's co-owned by the investors and the folks. And of course, the final word always comes back to her estate. So again, lots of moving parts and wanting to show the utmost of respect for her original vision and taking my ego out of it.
Yeah.
Um, I'd rather take my time when, we're all kind of making sure that we measure twice and cut once. And there's a lot of songs that weren't released that we played for her in her living room that she loved, but again, you can only fit so many on an album. And again, with the thing we talked about in the beginning with A Colorful Tale, the whole musical, it's on that level of awareness, like something that's trying to uplift people and
Mm.
bring the different cultures and races together. Which is, Maya was all about we are more alike than we are unalike, which is why I took on that project because it really, the guy who brought it to me, I also worked with on Maya Angelou's project. So, when he brings me something, I know it's of a certain caliber. So shout out to Mauro Lanini, for creating this cool project.
Would we ever see a solo stuff from you then? Because you're doing so much with some other people, but have you ever thought about releasing your own just independent
Yes,
solo
well,
stuff?
thanks to the magic of the internet. So when I first left As Yet, the signed group As Yet, because I've apparently been in and out so many times, but when I did a solo record called Salsa, which is available on Amazon, it's my childish attempt at trying to fuse together all these different styles, as a first time out. And I'd gotten like a deal. Remember when Napster was the thing? So
Yeah, I
I
got
was one of
so
the
much
first
stuff.
people to get a distribution deal,
Oh, so
a
you talking
digital
about?
distribution deal. But what they did was, um, I had a digital distribution deal with this company called 818 Music, and they would press physical CDs but take orders online. So kind of like what Amazon does now
CD
with
Baby.
music. Yeah, something like that. But this is like a decade before CD Baby, you
Oh,
know?
wow.
So when he presented me with the idea, and it was so out the box back then, I said, I'll try it. What do I got to lose? Right. So I delivered an album, and shout out to Kelly Keys. So Kelly Keys was this producer that we'd written a lot of stuff together for other artists.
Mhm.
And he said, I'll help you find musicians and people to bring together for a solo project. So then I'd done that record, but like I said, it came out, and then Napster fell and all these other companies fell, and that business model kind of died.
Yeah.
Then I did another record with a band called the Slam Band, which also had En Vogue's drummer. It had Miley Cyrus's guitar player, amongst other people. I mean, these guys are all like legendary session players. Alex Allison joining on keys, the same guy that brought me the other project. I mean, he's a legend. He hooked me up with everybody from Leona Lewis on down, writing for people. So all the songs that I wrote that didn't get placed, I've got enough songs for 5 solo albums. It's just a question of timing and preparation. So this summer, going on tour with the old head legends, I'll get a chance to do what Mary's doing and kind of float some of the songs out there.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, with the team behind me with Midtown, to actually be able to push beyond just me posting something and hoping 5 people like it. So we'll see.
I mean, but so if you had a Sean Rivera album, it would have some of the things you previously released, some of the new stuff. Would you ever do any remakes of the
Yes,
songs you did?
as a matter of fact, I've got a whole album full of remakes under the covers. That's a whole nother thing because people always come to me for covers because they're like, "Oh, well, love what you did with Hard to Say I'm Sorry. Why don't you do that?" No, or we love what you did with Overjoyed, Viva Mas. Can you do that? So I've been recording covers, a lot of covers, a lot of covers. And also, I was with an agency for the last 2 years before I moved here, singing 2 and 3 hours of cover songs for corporate parties. And I always have new ideas because I think it's harder to like to do a cover over, do it justice. And artists like Luther Vandross, who made you think it was his song,
Yeah.
like I always aspire to that, where like you're like, moved by it the way it moved me. I want to give that back.
Yeah, I just saw the Luther documentary and the cover of the Carpenter song. I didn't realize how he just flipped it. Yeah.
Yes, it's funny because I've done that one live, and it's I say a journey. Like certain songs, man, they're just timeless, and they should be done over. I mean, to suit. Sometimes people make the song over to modernize it, but sometimes it's just about like if you just happen to hear it differently. Like some people might say, "Oh, I just want to hear that in Afro beat," or I like, you know, the I want to suit my personal style to the song.
Mm.
You know. But like I said, these days I just take my ego out of it, and wherever the music takes me, even if it
Mm.
makes me uh, a side piece in my own project,
Yeah.
I'd rather the overall thing have the impact than somebody say, "Oh, well, that was cool," only because his part was cool. But like the track man, you know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah, that makes sense.
mean?
Keith Anders, did you remember working with him? Because
With who?
Keith Anders?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Keith Andes is the unsung hero of that shit, man. I mean, I saw you had him on the show and
Yeah.
like he's there's a handful of good dudes in the world. And I'm not like he don't owe me no money. I'm not just saying this, but like no, he's a really good dude. And he gets it. Like certain people are in service to the music. Like he's got a grand overstanding of specific sounds. He does his homework and studies the grades. He's a great lyricist, player, and he was the the nucleus of putting together Last Night. For As Yet, amongst other songs on that he's just that dude, man. Like I'd work with him anytime, and I've worked with him outside of just As Yet, and he's the same dude, man. Like he's a brother for life.
And I say that because when I did the show and it was reviewing it was reviewing Michael's The Invincible album, and then there was a song that he did with Babyface, and it was the thing about the I can't, I'm just gonna bring it up there. You Are My Life.
Oh,
And I
okay.
said this was a poor version of Last Night's because
Well, you obviously
it
haven't heard
had
the song called All
the
Night.
sun, the moon. No, this was Babyface writing with Michael
Oh,
on the
okay.
Invisible
Yeah.
album, and it feels like Michael heard Last Night, and he says, "Oh, I like that track," and Babyface, "Yeah, I can do it for you," and and Michael wrote "You're My Life," and it was like, yeah, yeah, it just felt like, yeah,
Now,
this
it's
was,
funny that you said that because I'm always gonna have love for Babyface. I'm not trying to drag him or nothing,
yeah, yeah,
but
no,
it's
no.
funny because Face at one point came to um to us and to Keith saying, "Can you like do another Last Night?" And he actually did do this song called All Night. Like when Keith Andes did it over, it was freaking dope. He wound up putting it on his record. It's
Yeah,
on
yeah,
his
yeah,
current
yeah.
album, and you can still hear us in the backgrounds.
He said that
And
he left the vocals on there.
yeah, it's dope. Like that, he was the guy to do the follow up, and it's unfortunate the way things turned out. And I won't say it's any one single person's fault because, as you know, how LaFace wound up, folding as labels do and selling
Yeah.
off, whatever. That wasn't Keith's fault, and it wasn't. I mean, Babyface had, he's got business to handle. Kenny and everybody else. Said,
Oh,
I'm
but
not
when you
privy to
guys
the.
recorded it, was it supposed to be on your follow-up album?
Yes, but this is when we had LaDon in the group, and we were on. Well, at first we were in on the face and still working on projects or songs that weren't coming out, like we were shelved. And then when LaFace did fold, we went to DreamWorks.
Mm.
Um, and at that time, VP215 was signed to DreamWorks, who is now Viva Mas without me. You know what I mean? Like that, there was a version of them. And at that time, they were coming to us for another Last Night, and we had done this song, and we put LaDon in the group because he was doing demos for Josh Thompson. Um, Shout out
Mm.
to Josh Thompson, another dope producer. So Josh Thompson had brought us this guy through Daryl, and then he sang on All Night, and it was, I mean, it did have "Love's Gonna Fall from the Sky," "Angels Will Come Down," right? But it was
Yeah.
kind of like, it was like, if you thought last night, was special, we're gonna do this all night. Like it took it
Yeah,
up a
yeah,
notch.
yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't a watered down version at all.
Yeah, it would have been good because yeah, it would have been definitely good if it come out if you guys were singing it. But I said I think Michael heard last night and Ted Face, can you do the same for me? And they did
Yeah.
You Are My Life because he says the sun and the moon in the
Uh-huh.
song, and it just so when you're comparing it, it just didn't feel like the best Face
Well, to be
production.
fair to All for One, right? People used to get us confused with All for One because they had "I Swear by the Moon and the Stars in the Sky." You know,
Okay,
I mean, since the dawn of
yeah.
mankind, humanity has been worshiping the celestial bodies in song form. So,
Well, you have to make something as big as it is. But just so I mean, so over the next couple of we're just in end of January now, getting February, March. Anything we should look out for? Or are you thinking is mainly summer? What's
All right. Well, like I said, I don't want to give too much away,
yeah.
but definitely there's a Viva Mas project in the works. There's a
Mm.
Shawn Rivera project in the works. Um, we're not going to wait for the summer to tour, but as far as like your best chance to catch what's going on with the Midtown team and all of the old school artists, where you can catch yours truly and all those collabs I was talking about, definitely between now and the summer. And I'm expecting at least one or two of the releases to come out February, March, kind of get the traction going up into the summer.
Okay. Okay. Definitely it's
Oh,
been
I want to shout out Miss J real quick because she sent me some pictures and I was watching your last episode. Man, I was eating and I just happened to see that you were live and then I went on and she said, "Oh, you never posted those pictures." I gotta post it. She was at a concert in Cleveland and caught me like I was making faces at the camera, looking all crazy. And it's she really went out of her way to make sure I got them. So I wanted to properly credit her and I will be posting those pictures for the
okay.
fans they want to see back in the day. So
Okay, no, it's
thanks,
good
Miss J.
because no, she has just recently joined us on our live chat, and because when we did our last one just in the new year, at the end of last year they said you don't have any females on your guest panel, and I said okay, and Miss J reached out and she's amazing and stuff. So yes, I'll check your profile to see some of the pictures and stuff.
Yeah, I got
But yes, okay. So no, it's definitely been great, Sean, just to catch up with you. I mean, can't even imagine how long ago. I mean, I saw you last year. I mean, but I'm talking about a year and a half ago. I can't remember when you
yeah.
came to the
Yeah.
UK, but I was
Yeah, I
talking
think it
about
was 2 summers. So yeah,
it was
about a
two
year and a half.
summers ago. Yes, but I was just talking about when we first sort of interviewed and you had that opportunity just to because at the time I'd just interviewed Dion and the rest of Aziet, and they
Right.
were given a story, and you wanted to really
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I love the guys, but it just shocks me sometimes when I hear different versions of the story, and I'm like, maybe I forgot something, but I know that wasn't it. But
yeah.
you know what? If you're watching, guys, I love you, and I can't wait for the album. Seriously, like no matter what, whether you never put out another album or you put out a whole disc record on me, I'm still gonna love you. Um, and next time, this is for you. Um, Next time, I'll make sure I have my camera set up so we can do the whole 10 top 10 producers
Yeah,
because
well, that's what
I
we
got
were
like
gonna
10
do.
per genre and stuff. And like, I can't check my notes right now. I'm like in
Yeah,
transit,
yeah.
but I
Well,
did not
yeah,
want to pass up the opportunity to be on the show. So
yeah.
thanks for the viewers for dealing with my jitteriness, my allergy eyes, and plain background.
Yeah.
No filter over here.
Yeah, well, guys, I'll get Sean back, and he'll be able to sit on his laptop and use his laptop camera so
Yeah,
he'll be ready and prepared for that. And this was and after part it was I just reached out to him a couple of days ago, so he just squeezed me into his schedule, so it's been appreciated for that and stuff. But yeah, it's been great, and I think people love to hear. about the industry, especially for new artists who are writers and producers who are trying to get in, but then are hearing a lot of the stories and then also seeing about the money's disappearing and labels folding. What should they do? And just a final advice for somebody who's up and coming, trying to be a recording artist or songwriter, what would you advise?
I mean, my advice for any up and coming producers or artists is give up while you can. If you're trying to make money, this ain't it.
Okay.
No, I mean, I'm not even being flippant. I mean,
Mm.
seriously, if you're doing it for the love, don't ever stop. Do it forever. The money will come. Educate yourself on the business so to at least protect yourself from losing more money than you started with. Um, get all the free help you can first before you go chasing down opportunities outside that are going to cost you things. You know, like there are ways, and also don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to fail. Try not to fail in public if you can help it, but you know it's better than not learning. So
Yeah.
just keep going and keep your eyes open for the next opportunity. Because if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Talent, we say talent, but hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard. So
Yeah. And
there's
I'll
that.
concur with that. And the reason I say that is because I started this during lockdown and I got better the more I started into talking to people. But it's never been about being the biggest channel, making millions of it, because that's not happening. And it's I've got my 9 to 5, and this is just like in the evenings I just do this and then connect. And so it's fun. And if people watch, it's great. If they don't watch, maybe one or two people appreciate it, then that's great as well. But if I was doing this to compete and for the money, so then who am I competing with? Is it with Questlove and iHeart? Is it
Mhm.
with Tank and his R&B Money podcast?
Mhm.
Am I, you start to think that actually the people doing exactly what I'm doing are backed by major corporations. So you can't compete with that if you were
I don't
look
think
if you
anybody's doing what you're doing. You have a very specific space. See, those shows are great, but their focus is a little different. You know, I think that you are a historian, but you also have mental health in mind and certain aspects of what you emphasize and what you care about is so specific to you. And that's why a lot of big artists are gravitating towards you without you having to be on iHeartRadio because there's a sincerity and an authenticity that people are going. You should be studied. If anything, shoot. And I'm not just saying that because it's true.
I appreciate that. The check is in the mail, Sean. Okay. Well, I've kept you long, and I will, as I said, I'll reach out again in order to schedule something when you have more time because we were going to go through his top 10 producers, sort of pick out some of the songs that they've done to make why he picked them from 10 down to one. But we're going to reschedule that, and actually probably we'll do that live so that other people can tune in while we do that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So they can chew me out because you can't pick 10 without pissing somebody off.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
man, I was losing sleep over it. I said, man, look, what do you mean 10 per genre? 10, my 10 favorite or 10 just
But
from the
10 is
Motown
better
era?
than
10
five because most times when I interview producers, I give them top five and they struggle. But if you had 10,
I
you'd.
have 50 in my phone right now. Like, I mean,
Okay.
when I say 50, the ones that came to my head first. So I was like, oh man, I'm gonna piss
Okay.
somebody off.
As a compromise, we're going to do 20 down to one. And
Fair enough.
we're as a compromise.
Yes, indeed. Well, and that's the great thing is that, no two people have this list, I hope.
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's the thing. And everyone, yeah, but it'll be interesting. And what I'll do is I'll say when you give me 20 down to one, you're going to give me their best song,
love it.
from 20 down to one. So guys,
Love
we're
it.
going to get Sean back. And so we appreciate the fact that he came in to show that this is stuff.
Yes, indeed. I know y'all gonna be like, what the hell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay, guys, we will chat with you later and stuff. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of Halftime Chat. Please remember to subscribe, share, and comment. But most importantly, why don't you become a member of Halftime Chat? We've got amazing videos, amazing perks, and being able to support the channel. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care.
I never participated in that kind.
And somewhere in between
us for even loving us, on which I did miss you really.
What was it like growing up?
She's still making an impact on 4 houses down.
I have a couple of pieces.
Trying to get this one and that one.
That works for you, but just for me,
No, okay.
They don't understand what Jonas' voice is winning all spirits.
Play it.
and all these guys, they all work together.
I mean, I love all different genres.